Matiz russo e sou encarregado pelos vinhos naturais da Mistral e da Vinci, tá? É um prazer ter todos aqui presentes, enaltecer esse evento para uma pessoa que eu guardo no coração, tenho uma amizade e uma admiração profunda por ele. Desde o dia que eu o conheci foi automático, assim, foi instantâneo, e acho que foi recíproco pela parte dele. E mostrou-se mais ainda isso quando ele resolveu de fato também criar essa ponte mais próxima com o Brasil, na companhia da Carla, que hoje é namorada e companheira dele, a Carla de Atibaia. Foi um dia fazer vendimia lá na Itália e deu no que deu também, igualzinho. Um se apaixonou pelo outro e agora ela também ajuda ele direta e indiretamente no trabalho, tá? Ele está na região do Etna, na Sicília. A gente sabe que o Etna hoje é tido como, né, a Borgonha da Itália, altamente qualificado, distintos terroirs em um espaço muito pequeno. Ele vai explicar um pouco disso também, ele vai falar a quantidade de litros que ele produz, vocês vão ficar abismados com a quantidade de vinhedos que ele tem nesses litros que ele produz. E ainda na variação de rótulos, vocês vão conseguir acompanhar o perfil do David, sempre muito direto, né? Sempre uma linha linear que segue os vinhos dele. Para mim são sempre muito claros, muito bem feitos e, graças a Deus, naturais. Tá bom? Então espero que gostem. And now with your, please, David, welcome back.
Thank you.
Vai parlare in italiano?
Come volete?
Eu pensei que pudesse ser melhor em inglês, mas se vocês...
Para mim eu voto em italiano.
Italiano, melhor, mais fácil.
Mas vocês são minoria.
Você tem interpretação?
Não, vamos em inglês, em inglês, por cortesia.
Italiano é tão gostoso de ouvir.
Go for it, man. All yours.
So, I'm very happy to be here with all of you. I hear all of you are dedicating your life to wine and to diffusing the word of this liquid that is not just, let's say, to get drunk, but it's also an act of culture. And I like to think of myself as an ambassador of an incredible territory. This incredible territory is located in the biggest island of Italy, Sicily, and we are therefore in the Mediterranean Sea, but in a mountain. It's a very special location, and we will focus a lot on talking about the place, talking about terroir, because terroir is not just a place. Terroir is the sum of a place and the humans that work in that place. So it's a sum of conditions that make a place unique. Now, if you see from this first picture, we are suspended between the sea, this is the Ionian Sea, and the mountain. The viticulture is mainly based on ancient Greek tradition and then Roman tradition that is called alberello. Alberello means, the English call it bush trade. Each plant is treated like a tree. And we use, you see these sticks? These are made of chestnut wood, castagna portuguesa, to sustain the vegetation of the plant. Therefore, viticulture is artisan, is manual. There is no machine possible. Okay, so everything, most of the activity is performed manually, and it's a tradition. There is no written education, it's just oral. So I learned from an old man in Etna, and I'm teaching some younger people now. So, coming to us, we have 8 hectares of vineyards in different contradas. We will go through the map in the next slide. But the places that maybe you've heard about Etna are Passo Pisciaro, Randazzo, Castiglione di Sicilia. These are really like wine cities. wine villages. Okay, we make around 20,000 bottles per year, out of which 90% is our production, and 10% we work with some local producer to establish a relationship, because Sicilians are very special and they don't trust people a lot. So in the future, to think you get another vineyard, you start with a collaboration, and then slowly you build trust over the years. Oops, pardon, scusate. Così. So, but let's say that our focus over the years, it's really been on the vineyard to achieve very good fruit, because this is the key of making a great wine. I think that when you talk about wine, it's really there where you have to start, in the vineyard. Because otherwise we're talking about technique in the cellar, but technique in the cellar is just a side to what is the core of your activity, is to really read, understand your territory and bring home the best possible fruit. And Etna, we will see, has got a huge diversity and a huge complexity. And this is very interesting for me as a producer, to work with such a complexity. So we have different portion of land. This on the right, this is the DOC Etna, l'Etna Dock. L'Etna Dock comincia a 400 metri circa, 400 meters altitude, up to around 1,000 meters, okay? So the macro areas are Sudwest, Sud-Est, Est, Nord-Est, and Nord. Okay, we are focused on east to north. This is the map of our company. Okay, so over the years, instead of buying a car or a house, when I had some money, I would buy a piece of land. You see, all of these are different contradas, and historically there's been zoning, so una zonazione fatta, e l'Etna, soprattutto la parte nord, che that is the most valuable part of Etna, let's say, has had a zoning with the contrada. Okay, contrada, the French would call it cru. Okay, locally you never talk about Etna Rosso. No, you say vino di Monte Dolce, vino di Santo Spirito, vino di Crasà, and locally they had a value and they had a different meaning in terms of taste and profile. Okay, so let's say that as a general,
How many contradas you have?
in total, I would say around 100 contradas in total. And we work around 15 of those. So, but as a general rule, so let's go into the ampelography a little bit. So this is the peak of Mount Etna, 3,500 meters, okay? Remember we said 400 to 1,000 meters for the Aussie. This part is the oldest part of Etna. So it's like chalk, like powder. This part here is the most active, so you have new lava, okay? This part is relatively old, okay? So most of the activity of Etna is coming this way today. Think that Etna is coming from the sea. So eruption, 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 up until you build a mountain, okay? So this is lava. And lava is sterile, but with the lichens and start slowly to erode the stone and create earth. Earth over earth, then create a territory for growing the grapes. Okay, so we have lava environment, the sun of Sicily, Africa, The cold of the mountain in the night. So when we're working in the vineyard, at 4 p.m. you have to cover yourself, otherwise you get a flu, okay? So big temperature escarpment when we talk wine, okay? 16 degrees on average. This is very important. Another very important thing is that the stone reflect the light. So you have not only the light from above, but you have also the diffused light. This helps the ripeness of the grape. And you have the sea influence and the phenomenon, the mountain winds that go around this place. So it's a very, let's say, ideal place for wine production. And that is why when the Greek arrived, they were crazy. They said, wow, this place is incredible. Then the Romans improved what the Greek had started, and so on. But the story of wine on Etna is much older than that. We have some Paleolithic cellars. They are in the stone, they make a hole, they put grapes, and then after 3-4 months they drink. You know, so they were starting 5,000 years ago. So okay, enough of lava and the 4 elements: sun, sea, and wind. Okay. Now, as a general rule, this part of Etna is best for white and rosé. The white grapes are mainly the Caricante. This is the autochthonous grape for white. And for the red is Nerello Mascalese. Nerello Mascalese, because if you see here, Presa, this area is called Mascali. Quindi Nerello Mascalese, from Mascali. Originally, the wine area was starting from the sea, all the way up. So it was starting pretty much here. And it was all vineyards. Then with history, this part was planted with citrus and oranges because it was more profitable. And luckily this part was not changed because it's too cold for orange and lemons. So today the vineyards are more concentrated in this area. Okay? So this part best for white rosé, and this is the best for red wines. Okay, our company has a tourism activity here, agriturismo. So this is where me and Carla welcome the guest, organize wine tasting. We have a cultural season as well. We will see this later. And our cellar is here in the north of Etna. Okay. So we harvest and we bring the grapes in the north. Why here? Because I think this is the ideal weather conditions for winemaking. The right cold, the right humidity, and the right logistics also for us, because our majority of production is here.
But it's colder or hotter?
Colder.
It's colder. And but it's especially drier also. This part here, why is this part is better for white? Because it's more humid and not so sunny, and it has the sea influence. Okay, but sea influence can also mean fog, and the fog is not very good when you're making wine. At least for me, we have very special conceptions. We don't touch the wine when it's raining or when it's windy. We don't enter the cellar. So we have our own, let's say, vision of things. Let's go. Any more questions regarding this?
Where is Siracusa and Taormina? Just for me to
Okay.
get that.
We would need a map of Sicily, but Siracusa is down here. This is
Okay.
Catania, and south of
Okay.
Catania is Siracusa, and Messina is here, and Taormina is here.
Okay.
So from our tourism activity, we see the Bay of Taormina, okay? And we have Etna on the back. We also produce fruits. We will see what we do with fruits as well. So we talked about the Caricante grapes, and we talked about the north of Etna, where we produce the red wines.
How old is this plant?
Oh, this is a good question. Yes, we let's say that our oldest vineyard, its first official document is 1918, and we have some vines that are pre-phylloxera. In another practice that is often used on Etna is reproduction by marcotage, the French call it. So you take a branch, you put it down, and you create a double. So you keep the DNA of your, let's say, vineyard, but also you are doing it franco di piede. Franco di piede is the way to have a direct link with the earth, because modern viticulture today is made of two plants. You have the American rootstock and the European vine, and these are two plants that talk to each other, but this is like a filter. When you have a free of food, it's like this. So, but this is the problem with phylloxera. I don't know if you're familiar with this arachnis that nearly destroyed viticulture in the end of the 19th century. So they discovered that the American vine was resistant to phylloxera, and that is why modern viticulture is made of two plants. But since Etna is cold and sandy, phylloxera didn't reach there very much. So this is really our core activity. This is a very good example of the restoration we did. In this case, this is a selection massal. So we go select the old vines and reproduce them to keep alive the DNA of our history, of our tradition. All of this is made with terraces, you see? This is lava stone terraces. They say that originally it was made by war prisoners, because this is a really tough job. I've done it, and I can tell you, because lava is like and heavy and hot. And you see, another thing very important is biodiversity. This is today, I think, a key element that all of us involved in agriculture should really take into consideration. Is what is our impact to the environment, and what are we doing for it? And also, this system is more intelligent. If you over-specialize, you make a system stupid. I say it's like marrying cousins, you know, when you marry, you have stupid kids, you know. While a system like this is more able to fight against diseases and to, you know, to transmit information and to create a beautiful diversity, and this is extremely important. It is one of the key elements of.
What means lingua glossa?
Literally, it's this is a tongue, lingua di lava.
Okay.
Here we are in the northeast of Etna, and if you see where you have lava, you have a wall, because you cannot cultivate.
Okay.
And slowly, like this, you create, you know, places where to grow the vines.
Glossa is lava.
Huh?
Yes,
Glossa is lava.
close to.
Sì. Glossa è come grossa. But some people say that the villagers are talk too much.
Linguarudo.
Avelã.
David, who was the first important producers to the Rinascimento de Etna? How nowadays is so important. Who was the first one?
I think the two most relevant are Marte Grazia.
Marte de Gracia?
Who started very early, and he understood also the value of the contrada, the different group, and his company is called Terrenere.
Okay.
And he also heavily invested in the north of Etna to make great reds. And the second one, which is more on my field, let's say it's Frank Cornelissen
Okay.
for the national wine. Now Frank has evolved into, let's say, a more. The ambition is to make just great wines.
Okay.
It's not anymore this debate, national, non-national. It's just super
Okay.
good wines. That's it. But he opened the door for many of us.
Okay.
Now there is a new generation of winemakers, and we are trying to, let's say, to have a good movement with good principles and good quality of the wines. I think this is important. This is also our responsibility to, let's say, train them to do the good thing. Because today there is too much of Instagram, I call it Instagram winemaking.
Yeah.
So you buy some grapes and you ask me or somebody else to make the wine. Then you have a good graphic designer, you make a nice label.
Yeah. I make natural wine.
And then you go around partying, because we all enjoy going around and drinking, but there is a lot of work before that.
Yeah.
And if you have tattoos, the better.
Here. Because if the work is done here properly, work properly means that we are committed to it. We are in the vineyard every day. In certain period, we go there every day to make sure that everything is fine, to work to
But
perfection.
you have many other grapes, different grapes that I tasted.
Yes, this is okay. Also, the diversity we were talking about. So, especially in Old Vineyard, the local farmer who came before me or before me, he observed, he understood, and he slowly planted some different grapes inside. So it's like a little fill blend.
Okay.
3%, 5% of, can be Sangiovese, can be a little bit of Nero d'Avola, can be a little bit of Merlot. But especially it was every 20 red, 1 white.
Okay.
Because very seldom Nerello Mascalese alone is chemically perfect. So with the introduction of a little bit of white grapes, you were fixing the imperfections of the pH, of the acidity of the wine. This took me years to understand why do you do this, and I came to this conclusion. And it's not just Etna in Tuscany, for example. The Trebbiano was co-planted with the Sangiovese, and they were fermenting it together. So, so 2010 we were making one wine, and then slowly now we make 13 different wines.
2010 is the
First vintage, yes.
And now you make
13 different wines, and 5 of those are now in Brazil through Ramatiz. Because I think it's already a very good selection of our work. Another important thing, this is a great landmark. They say this tree is 5,000 years old. This is a chestnut tree. So this is our local wood. We use it for construction, we use it for the vineyard, and we use it also for the barrels. Some of our wines that we're gonna taste are made in this wood by local artisans. This is an example of a 100-year-old vineyard. You see the formation of the vines, very high density, and chestnut pole for every plant. So imagine here the work. It's all manual. So it requires a lot of humans to work it. The wines are a bit more expensive, because this type of cultivation is to make more concentration, to have more concentrated, more long aging wines, important reds with long maceration. While if you want to do maybe lighter whites or lighter rosé, which are fashionable these days, maybe you give a bit more space to the plant and allow her to produce a bit more grapes. So when you're good, I think you make 5,000 kilos per hectare, 5,000, 6,000 kilos per hectare, and on average you make around 4,000 bottles, 5,000 bottles. This is when you're good. Let's say that for the disciplinary DOC Etna, you have 7,000 kilos per hectare for the DOC and 9,000 for EGT. EGT è geografica, indicazione geografica tipica. But this you open a big subject because for the moment I'm out of the DOC, not because I have all the conditions for being in a DOC. I only go DOC once every 5 years, just for the pleasure of doing it. But in my wines there is just my name, so you know who made it, and the company is called Etnella, so if you're smart, you know where it comes from. Okay.
David, this is a rock from these stones.
This is all lava stones, yes.
Okay.
And this is one of our great trade, is to build walls with no cement, just dry stone walls.
Have to make a class to the young people, no?
Yeah. This is the problem now, that we are losing the old artisans.
Yeah.
People want to have nice vineyard where they jump on a tractor, do everything in artificial intelligence. Okay, so after all the work you've seen in the cellar, in the vineyards, come the cellar. So in the cellar we are very simple, very artisan cellar, and we try and use we don't use any yeast. So we ferment our grapes with indigenous yeast, the one that is in the skin of our grapes, but also that lays on the walls of my cellar.
Amen.
I don't have to ask today.
We let's say that we also use pied de couve. Pied de couve means that you go in the vineyard, you select the most beautiful grapes 10 days before the big harvest, and you create your mother, like bread, you know, la levedura madre. So we do this especially at the beginning, when we have to warm up the cellar. When the cellar is warm, everything you bring in starts fermenting. But again, it's a more risky activity. When you're fermenting without yeast, it's more risky. But we are there to assist the process, and we make sure especially that the grapes have enough azotus. This is one of the key elements. And azotus come again from the land. Okay? Nitrogen is the food of the yeast, so they can process and eat all of the sugar. So our use of sulfites, these are the only two things that we allow ourselves, is sulfites a little bit, and it depends. If the quality of the grape is perfect, we only add some before bottling. If the quality of the grapes is not so good, we add something immediately. Okay, but sulfites has to be seen as an antioxidant. Okay, so when you have oxidation, they come like this. So at the beginning, which is the most oxidative part of the winemaking, they really get completely eaten. So when you use them at the beginning, they're really not even present in the later stage of the wine. But again, I'm not dogmatic about zero sulfites or zero filtration. I see what the vintage is giving me, and I approach it in a way that I can give the best possible wine. Of course, I personally don't like a wine above 40 milligrams of sulfite, which I think for our experience is enough for having good and correct wines.
Perfect.
But
É isso.
The weather is totally dry, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more and more, unfortunately. I mean, we haven't talked about the climatic crisis, but we are suffering this as well, which in turns generate a little bit of what I call eco-anxiety, because you're like anxious and you say, I hope it rains, I hope it rains, I hope it rains, and then it rains too much. So you're like, whoa. Let's say that as a general rule, there is no irrigation in viticulture. The more you make the plant struggle, the better wine you will have. But there is a limit to this, of course, because without water, the plant will die. So you talk about irrigazione di soccorso, so rescue irrigation. This is the normal approach. Today, and where we have our cellar, and this is also why I selected it, we have a well 40 meter deep down. We have water. We have our own source of drinkable, good water at 8 degrees Celsius. We use it also for governing temperatures inside the cellar. And so let's say for the future, I think I'm gonna have to use more and more water. And especially for the young vines, it can be necessary the first years before their roots really develop to use water.
David, this the mijuana you call the mijuana.
Si.
What you do with this? You let that kind of wine rancio. We call rancio when you let the wine at the weather.
No. This is just because it's washed and we leave it outside.
Okay.
We mainly use this or for small experimentation, when we want to see a new vineyard, how it behaves, and also as a little reserve for Magnum, for making 1.5 liter bottle. And also, during the racking in the cellar, you might miss some wine. So with this, we use it to complete and fill. Oh yeah, this is another crazy initiative that we did. We have, slow food. The Etna apples have been acknowledged by the Slow Food Organization. And you see that they have little defects because we grow them completely organic. So I was taking them to the market and be humiliated. So I'm gonna pay for it. So what we decided is that what we know what to do is to ferment. And so we made a line called Etnella Land, where we are co-fermenting apples and grapes. It's like a light wine, 6-7 alcohol, sparkling. And it's working in some countries like Japan or Chile. It's a good alternative to a beer.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's good for breakfast.
It's a tendency now. Low alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Café da manhã.
Fantastic.
Sì, esatto, caffè da manhã. Also the labels are quite fun.
Very nice. Very nice.
This is celebrating the marriage between apple and grapes. The last one say it's a boy. These are some astronauts apple that are abducting grapes from the volcano. It's
very nice.
Young artist that did this.
E na Itália não pode ser, você não pode.
Per completare, to complete our, let's say, already busy activity, we're making also olive oil, and we introduced the black bee, that is a Sicilian typicity of bee, mainly to complete the system, to have better flowers, better pollination. This is not to make honey. I mean, we only take the honey in excess that they make. For us, it's mostly to
maintain
the system. Yeah.
Fantastic. Complimenti.
Basta. So we talked about. So in the same vineyard we can harvest. These are quinces, white grapes, red grapes. And we also attract a lot of international people. If any of you like to come during harvest, we always need help. We offer accommodation, great food, great wine.
Next year.
25.
Agora.
25.
Eu vou mesmo.
And this is one of our typical moments of socialization, where we share food. We have a vegetable garden, olive oil, and of course wine.
O problema é voltar, né?
Não fale duas vezes.
Se for.
Mas tem que trabalhar, viu?
L'agriturismo, note stellate, that's where me and Ramatis met the first time,
Yeah.
many years ago.
He told me.
In this same table, in fact.
Same table.
Yes.
In this same table.
It's Hamatis there.
No, it looks like, no?
Could be.
But it's not. I don't think so. No? It's more recent, this photo.
This is more recent, yeah. This is
Tô em dúvida agora. Because I remember a Magnum also, in our table. This is a Magnum, no? Yeah.
yes.
Cool. O que eu acho extremamente relevante e marcante é o que eu sempre tento dizer quando me perguntam o que é vinho natural. E não é uma resposta tão simples de dar. Muita gente acha que vinho natural é uva orgânica, é pouca manipulação ou nenhuma, não usa sulfuroso e a fermentação é espontânea com levedura selvagem. Claro, se você for sintetizar ao máximo, isso é vinho natural. Mas vocês podem ver que ele faz muito mais do que isso. Então tem uma proteção do ambiente e da fauna local. Existe um trabalho com um pequeno agricultor local. Existe manutenção desse pequeno agricultor local. Ele resgata a técnica ancestral de vinificação. Ele protege o meio ambiente. Ele devolve para a natureza o que a natureza dá para ele. Então é um trabalho muito maior, né? A gente sempre tem que tentar abrir a nossa lente para parar de ver as coisas assim e passar a ver as coisas assim, né? Isso é o mais importante no vinho natural. Não é simplesmente, eu não uso levedura, então eu sou natural. Eu não uso sulfuroso, então eu sou natural. Não. Fazer vinho natural é um estilo de vida, é um ato político. É como todo mundo fala, eu como comida orgânica, é um ato político, né? É muito mais do que simplesmente ir na feira e comprar um produto e não saber quem é o nome da pessoa que produziu aquele tomate que você comprou. Mas eu compro orgânico. Tá, e quem é o nome do cara que faz o teu tomate? Da onde ele vem? Quantos quilômetros ele rodou até chegar na tua mesa? Ele é preocupado com isso. Existe essa manutenção local. Isso pra gente é o mais importante. Isso pra mim é fazer vinho natural.
Let's say that for me, the vision I have is that it's more anthropologic. I think I like to define myself an artisan. Artisan wines are wines that are really tailored. I like to say shopping at Zara or shopping Alfaiate. This is really...
In your neighborhood.
Yes.
Of course.
This is for me the most important thing. And then the protocol, zero sulfides, the zero yeast. Nowadays, any good enologist can make you a totally natural wine that will pass any control and any test. And I think the truth that we have to search it somewhere different, no? That there is the political part, of course, is what kind of project am I sponsoring? Because when I'm drinking, I'm sponsoring something. You know, what kind of vision I have in agriculture, and the second thing is I call it the emotion, the tension in the wine, and this I cannot define. This, some wine have this, some others don't. Some wines have perfection, absolute, let's say, and professor here can teach us that they have no flows. They are 100 points wines, but boring.
Yes. Yes.
Perfection is like coming close to God. But at the same time, perfection can be boring.
Yes.
Sometimes when you leave a little bit more room to, let's say, to nature, more freedom, then you'll be shocked of the result that you can have. So you're always fighting against two forces, no? And wine is compensative. Wine is such a magic element that he finds compensation, and it's much more complex than our brain is, for sure. So give it more chance to nature, and she will reward you.
Beautiful.